So we're up to episode 7 of Netflix's special, and we're reviewing it today. Sean Vickers, how are you?
Here I am with my hands.
Creepy hand.
I'm great. Creepy hand moment. Yeah, no, great. Thanks, Phil. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm just a little bit sad that we're coming to the end of Ryan O'Connell's Netflix show. There's a bit of a buzz about it on Twitter.
It's all a go, isn't it? Which is nice to see.
Mainly because of your creepy hand, I think.
It's probably my creepy hands. I mean, they've got their own OnlyFans, my creepy hands.
Talking of fans, you did have one on our live premiere the other night.
Well, thank you to the person on the live premiere who was incredibly complimentary. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That really did make my Friday night.
I think I should have just introduced you as Daddy.
Again, that's an entirely different page inside.
Something we can discuss on a future episode, perhaps. If you're new here, by the way, thank you very much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. We are on to season 2 of Unpacked, and this time, of course, we're doing special. We have done It's a Sin before. Season 3, we've no idea what's coming next, but we have got something in the pipeline for later in the year, which we're very excited about.
We've got some ideas, but actually, if you have ideas about some queer-related content that you would love us to talk about, let us know, because we are very keen.
Totally.
We've got some ideas, as Phil says, but we're very open.
Yeah, we're all ears. And by the way, this is the home also of Boys on Film, regular movie reviews, which we do quite a lot of with Raj Rudolph as well. He's having a little bit of a break at the moment, so it's just us two. But also, we do interviews, music interviews on this channel too, which I'm going to get you involved in, Sean, because you seem to be doing everything else. You might as well.
Yes, good. Love to keep busy, Phil.
It's all fun. Exciting. It's all fun on this YouTube channel. So it's episode 7. Why is no one ready? You know the catchphrase, surely, from that movie.
Maybe I don't. Maybe I've not. My coffee hasn't kicked in this morning. Why is no one ready, Phil?
Meryl Streep, of course, uttered that line in The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh,
come on,
of course.
You know it.
Sorry. Yeah. Too slow this morning, of course. And here I am wearing my cerulean belt.
I must admit, when I saw this episode, I had no idea either until they explained it. I'll let you off on that one. Yeah. Now, this is written by Ryan O'Connell, and he's written episode 8 as well as the first episode. So 3 out of the 8 he's, obviously taking control of. Directed by Craig Johnson. I wrongly mentioned that one of the other directors had directed all of the episodes, but Craig is actually doing quite a few of these. I think it's half and half with, I can't remember who the director is, but the name will come up on the screen.
Phil, you're a human being. It's okay.
I'm glad you said that.
No one wants a YouTube review with a chatbot. Don't worry, you're human.
Can you just remind me, like every time we record something, that I am just a human being, and then that will make me feel so much better.
We're not some kind of AI chatbot. No one wants that in their life.
Okay, so at the beginning of this episode, Ravi and Kim, also Tanner and Ryan, are packing up to go on a little trip, a little break.
Yeah, I like this episode because I've mentioned it throughout the other reviews we've done of Special. Some lovely comparisons, very clever here. So we have 2 parallel trips. We have the Ojai trip and we have the Carmel trip. And it's interesting the way that they kind of interweave their experiences over these kind of breaks. So that's what I quite liked about it, because that's a very literal comparison. It's like 2 very different vacation, road trips, etc. And 2 very different outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And both trips have their highs and have their lows. Quite a lot of lows, actually, in both vacations. But Kim has chopped up her credit cards. We rejoice. Well done, Kim. You did it.
The other thing that I loved about Kim in the early part of this episode is the revelation that she had sex with a ghost. Which is, as we all know, a transactional bonk.
A transactional ghostly bonk.
A transactional ghostly bonk. But good for you, Kim. We're here for you.
Time for the creepy hand, I think. Okay, so they arrive. Tanner and Ryan they're sleeping in twin beds. They haven't got a double bed. It's all a bit uncomfortable and awkward. And yes, arguments escalate pretty quickly.
Well, Ryan and Tana, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Tana just keeps saying to him, let's have this kind of wellness check. Are we okay? Which I actually quite like. I mean, it's quite grown up, like where we are. And I think, after the prom, which was a disaster.
Wasn't it
I think Tana does do the, are we okay? And Ryan's basically saying, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's okay. But, and they're on this vacation. But I don't know. Words and figures don't match for me here. I think what we've learned from Ryan over the course of this season and last season is he kind of wears his heart on his sleeve, and you can get a sense of whether he's really in something or not. And you get a sense here that things are not okay.
See, we have a real shift in Ryan's personality as well. I don't know about you, but I didn't like him as much in this episode. And I'm not saying that he was unfairly criticising Tana, because I think Tana had a lot of issues that he should have dealt with before, which is probably the reason why he, they're at this place, and having problems. But Ryan does decide to top, and all is good until that moment.
Yeah. We've all lived that fantasy. But yeah, I do feel that Ryan overreacts a little bit in this scenario.
Yeah,
and then
totally.
Tana moves into a very defensive play as a response, and then you're in a horrible place. You can't get out of that because people are just fighting their corners. This isn't no longer a conversation. It's combative. And that's the scene you get here, which is Ryan, it's kind of call and response. Ryan's view, Tana's defense. Tana kind of says, well, we've tried before, we've had attempts in inverted commas, and suddenly the whole thing goes really sour.
Yeah, I think because they're both picking up on each other's faults rather than looking at the good stuff, and it all seems to take a negative spin, and it's downward spiral from there, I think. But can I just say, ooh, 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 ooh. I love that when Ryan's like, ooh, rushes to the bathroom.
Do it as much as you like, Phil.
Ooh. A whole episode of oohs. So Karen goes to Carmel by the Sea. I want to go there. I've been to California, but I've never been to Carmel. She's having a treat for reaching 50. Her first vacation for 30 years. So again, applause.
Applause, Karen. I mean, there's a different energy here. So Karen's like, yes, I'm going to Carmel, I'm going to have this vacation. And then you get this whole idea of, notwithstanding the kind of awkward conversation with the Airbnb guy saying, you need to be Jenna from Minnesota. There's this bit where she's almost clock watching. We've all been that person when you go on vacation and suddenly you're like, I'm on vacation. And she's so desperate to be on vacation.
Yeah.
But you can tell she's looking at the piano and she's thinking about some yoga and she's reading and she's checking in on Ryan on her phone. But she's not in vacation mode. She's almost a bit like, right, I'm here. What am I going to do? And you get that sense of it. You get this sense of like, she wants to relax, but she's not there mentally to be able to do so.
I so get that, though, because I'd be the same. If I was there somewhere beautiful and peaceful, quiet, and nobody around, I'd be like, oh my God, I need to go to a party. I need to see people. I need human interaction. Because silence is lovely. You dream of it if you're in the city. But then when you get there, it's a completely different matter. The thing is, though, she's not just clock watching. She's hearing it tick as well. When you see that. The image of the clock on the shelf and it's ticking away. It's like, oh my God, that would drive me mad.
There's also something interesting here, which is like, that like traveling on your own is difficult. I have to say, like, if you've ever traveled on your own, it's difficult because you have this like fantasy of like, oh, I'm cool and I'm self-sufficient and I can do all these things. And you do find yourselves at times like sat in a cafe or doing something going, I can't believe it's only 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because it's just you. And that there's a skill and an art to it. And I think for Karen, who's not even been on a vacation for 30 years, it's even more acute.
Absolutely. So she goes to dinner, and this is where she doesn't, she's on her own initially. She sat on her own at the table, but she looks like, she overhears another conversation and kind of interacts with these people and does a brilliant Diane Keating impression. Is it Diane Keaton? Diane Keaton. Keating? Yeah,
Keaton.
Keating.
The key thing here, we are introduced to legendary icon Leslie Jordan.
Yes.
He's so well cast, so well placed into this scenario playing Charles that I was just thrilled to see him there.
Oh my God, and that voice is everything. He's got a voice like no other. It's such a distinctive voice. I mean, if I just heard that voice sitting at, at that dinner table, I'd be like, I know who that is straight away. Yeah. I'm over there.
And
He's brilliant.
think this is where I think what's really nice. Like, so there's the group is there. They invite Karen over because I think also at a certain age they realise that she's on her own and she probably just needs a bit of company. As I say, like it's traveling on your own is hard. But they're part of a choir called Voices of a Certain Age. And Karen reveals that she used to be in a choir, and there's a connection. There's a warmth. And you also realise that Karen really doesn't have any friends, not even back home. Like, so there's like warmth of people of her age with similar interests. I think it's warming because we haven't seen that for Karen so far in this series. There's still been initially there was issues with Ryan. There's still the ongoing issues with Phil. That she's had her mother die. So it's nice as it comes to the end of the series to start to see Karen get a bit of warmth and a bit of, something a bit nicer, quite frankly.
Yeah, totally. And I think for the last 30 years, her priority has been Ryan. So in a sense, she hasn't had friends maybe for, partly for that reason. So it's nice to see her actually just letting off steam a bit, letting her hair down.
Yeah. I did like them all bopping around the pool to Frida Payne's Band of Gold, which is one of my personal favourites.
That was number one when I was born. So it always, remains a song that I always remember. And of course, Phil, the episode ended with that.
If you wish to date yourself, age yourself for the YouTube population, that's your call.
That's a very good point. I won't do that in future. I might have to edit that bit out.
With that. Seriously. That's just one Google away. One Google. But yeah, and I think, Karen finds her voice here. The neighbour starts complaining, and Karen really finds her voice, and I really like that. I really get the sense that she feels comfortable. She feels it's a safe place. She feels she can be Karen, and that's lovely. It's great, and that I think is what the vacation was for her, to discover and re-find herself a bit. And I think it comes through at that kind of late night boozy pool party with Voices of a Certain Age and Leslie Jordan. I mean, MAs.
And the neighbour, of course, comes over and is a bit disgruntled at the fact they're having this party. I mean, it's not riotous. It's enjoyable. There's only 4 of them. But he's saying it's 8:30. He's looking at it as well. She's 8:30. Why are you having a party? It's like, for goodness sake, get a life.
I mean, that is probably one reason not to go to Carmel if you're going to get the party locked down at 8:30.
So Ravi and Kim are getting on well. I love the fact that Ravi comes over and she's got her coffee there and pours the almond milk in, and Kim's a bit taken aback because she's like, hang on a minute, what is this suggesting? Are you suggesting that you're looking after me more? And it turns out that he is, because he wants to be in a relationship with her.
Yeah, and I think, again, similar to Karen, we all want Kim to start to have a bit of a positive story, and I think she deserves some nice things, and Ravi's one of those nice things. He seems really sorted and really sound, and someone who actually gets her, someone who has known her for a long time and can see through that kind of like hard shell and knows the real Kim. So I was like, applause. This made me very happy that, Ravi was kind of saying, this may be more than our Diwali transactional bonk.
Yes.
This could be something more, and I was happy with that.
They make a good couple, or they would. I'm just looking to the future, positive thinking. Yeah, she is a bit scared though that the relationship, if they are to be in a relationship, would ruin the friendship, because, like you say, they've been together for a long time, and it's like, ooh, crossroads. Much like Karen, because she's at crossroads in her life too, so she's got to make decisions.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think Kim is thinking about something new on the horizon. I like the fact that Kim and Ryan do the same thing. They're writers and they can bounce off each other. And there's some interesting scenes there about how, again, comparisons, how their respective lovers and partners deal with them doing work. At one point they're both writing, and Tana kind of comes in and is like, it's 1 o'clock. Like you said, you need to finish at 1, and it's 1. And I don't know. It's very interesting how this episode is written, because, again, like the whole of season 2, it's comparisons.
Yeah. Well, Kim does work with Ryan at the moment. She's applying for a new job. She wants to get out of Egg Woke. I mean, how could you actually decide to leave Olivia?
I want to get into Egg Woke. Olivia, if you're watching, I'll happily say that you look thin, and I'll go get you a coffee. Like, who wants to leave Egg Woke?
You can take Kim's place, maybe.
No one can take Kim's place, but I think I could do a great job for Olivia. Olivia, getting the messages. I'm ready.
She really would say to you, "What are you doing here, Diva?" Though, you know that every time you walked in the room,
and I'd be okay with it. I'd be like, I don't know, I'm making a listicle.
Let's go back to Ryan and Tanner, because their argument, it does blow up. Some really spiteful comments coming from both sides, I think. I was a backup dancer for Sierra, Tanner says.
Yeah.
I understand being passionate about something. Because Ryan's saying that he's been passionate about his writing, and that's why he's taken a bit of a breathing space to go and do that. They shouldn't be together at all times on this vacation, but, he's writing as well.
Yeah, so we come into this through the back door of an origin story. So, people, they're sat around and they say to Ravi and Kim, how did you meet? And there's this origin story. And then there is the flick back, which is, how did Ryan and Tanner meet? And what's interesting is they both have a different perspective of their origin story. And that kind of sets off yet again the wrong kind of conversation, because they're both slightly defensive. So their origin story isn't all like kissing on the eyelashes and flowers and honey. It's actually, it's quite bumpy, and at times it feels more bumpy than on the other side. It's not balanced, and that really, as you say, kicks off this conversation about who they are. This career conversation is very ugly, because they start to there's like ugly comparisons about their career. Again, when you're in that space, it only goes one way. It's ugly, and there's no out.
Well, yeah, because Tanner's calling Ryan a mummy's boy, which is really unfair. But, likewise, Ryan is saying some nasty stuff to Tanner as well. And it's weird, because the last episode we were saying, wow, Tanner's personality seems to have taken a bit of a turn. We didn't like him as much as we thought we did. And now I have to say, I think Ryan, a little bit, is being quite spiteful and selfish in this episode. But then maybe he needs to be. I don't know.
Well, there's an interplay here, which is, I think Ryan is thinking about the prom. Tanner's saying, I don't want to be involved with the Crips. I kind of separate yourself from that friend group. So I think Ryan is a little bit like, why is that? And I think it's one of those things that he probably resents, or it's a residual energy that's not resolved. And again, I think at one point here, Ryan says, Tanner doesn't understand my disability. And I think it's still there. And I think that's the thing that you can't shake, because it's this underlying. And so everything comes back to it. And so, I don't know, yes, we see a different Ryan, but in some ways you could say that he's actually finally speaking out and saying, this is who I am. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to allow the kind of internalized ableism that I have, to come to the fore. I'm actually just going to call it out. And so, yeah, you get a different Ryan, I think.
Now, we're getting towards the end of the episode, and there's one scene that really hit me hard in this, and I don't know what you think, but when Karen arrives home after this, little break, she goes back home, and you see this scene, her in her living room, and she's dancing to Frida Payne. She's obviously hearing it in her head, and you see her kind of busting the moves. I mean, this choreography, it's proper choreography, isn't it? She's really dancing well. But then that realization hits her, and you see the camera pan back, and it's really up high, and you see, the camera looking down on her. And then she realizes, obviously, she's quite lonely where she is, because she's back home on her own. And she's thinking of this amazing time that she's had with her friends, dancing to this song. And I've got goosebumps just thinking about that scene. It's so brilliantly done.
Well, it's just a very stark realization, because it's one of those moments where she's seen what her life could be. And it could be with people of a similar age, with similar interests, in a different, it's also that thing when you go somewhere different. You go on a holiday and you're like, oh God, imagine if we lived here, that kind of stuff, right? But I think she has experienced life without her mother, with Ryan not so close. And actually, it's about her. And as she gets back home, I think she's a bit like, shit, this isn't it. I think that's the stark. I think the stark realization, the bit that hits everyone, is this isn't right for you, Karen, anymore. And she's realizing that, and that's important, I think, as we go into episode 8.
Yeah, it's a really powerful scene, I think. It kind of, sums up those fears that you have if you're in a position like that, where you've got to kind of let go of your security blanket, even though it's not really, emotionally the best thing for you, or, it's not doing your health any good if you're alone. You've just got to open your wings and fly, I suppose, in a sense.
Of course. I just think it's part of the reinvention tour. And the reinvention tour really started for Karen at the end of season one when Ryan, when they kind of like became estranged. Ryan moved out of the home in season one. That's the beginning of the reinvention tour, and we've kind of watched Karen evolve over that period. And then with things like the funeral, where we start to see Ryan make decisions about what's right, outside of his mother has cared for him, like. And I think then Karen starts to realize that, he's okay. He's going to be fine. And therefore she needs to start to think about herself. And that's not being selfish. I think that's self-care.
That's what I love about this series, though, because it does tell a story about the other people, not just Ryan. Because it's Ryan's people. It's the people he loves, family and friends. But it's also centering on, these characters individually as well as together. Which is quite a clever thing to do, considering how short this series is.
Well, yeah, you're right. They could have weighted it all towards Ryan's character, and everyone else is kind of just this like one-dimensional, device to demonstrate. I mean, that's not the case. The characters are fully formed. I was saying this to my husband last night when we were laughing about Kim as I was rewatching the series. They're fully formed characters.
Yeah.
And that's why with the exception of probably Samantha, who will never be a fully formed character. Yeah, it's amazing, and I don't know. I'm sad that there's only one episode left. Let's put it that way, because I think it is one of those things that could really run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in a way Samantha is a caricature, which is a bit of a shame because she could be more than that. But I suppose that's the point, isn't it? To paint her as this, funny character that I suppose people can laugh at.
You're right, because if you think about someone like Bubbles in Absolutely Fabulous, she's like the office airhead, and she's a bit like Samantha, but they cleverly crafted the character into something richer and deeper. And I think they could do the same with Samantha, because I think Samantha's a similar kind of device. She's this like ditzy, hilarious airhead, but you could have done a lot more. And I think that's the ab-fab comparison is probably a decent one.
That's really interesting. I wonder if Ryan O'Connell was inspired by Bubbles. I mean, yeah, perhaps. So the episode ends with Ravi, Kim telling Ryan about Ravi. That's how it ends. Which, bombshell? I don't know. Maybe not.
Maybe not. I mean, Ryan and Tanner, no more. That's also very clear in this episode. And I think, what we also have to consider is when couples have their first argument, I always think it's a real milestone, because at that point everything is kind of like, honeymoon period. And then at some point they have their first argument, and often for couples it's how they deal with it, because it's the first time something happens that's not all lovely and nice, and it really comes down to how people communicate and how they resolve it. I think that's a huge thing. And what you get here is we get two scratchy moments through this episode of Ryan and Tanner, and you realize that they communicate really badly. The way that they work together is awful when they're in that kind of position, and it leads them to a breakup.
Yeah, I said this before, the comparison, this is Phil Marriott going deep, by the way, brace yourself. If you smash a vase and you repair that vase, the cracks will always show.
Very deep. Very deep. I'm happy that I'm happy that I've attended your emotional TED talk, Phil. That's brilliant.
Okay, so that's it for episode 7. An amazing episode. I mean, it's just a brilliant series. We've really enjoyed it. Do you so far? Maybe I should pose this question on the next episode. Are you enjoying this more than the previous series? I think I am.
Yeah, I think so. I think partly because there's full character development, so you can really, it's a bit like I enjoyed Looking season 2 better than Looking season 1.
Oh, I hated Looking. That is controversial.
Yeah, it is controversial. But at least you got full character development. And I know they axed it, but I was a bit like, now you've got the momentum. We know who the characters are. You could really go for it, but they didn't. And so I think it's a bit like this for this season. I think there's a sense of resolution that's happening towards the end of the season, but I feel like the characters, you start to fall in love with them a little bit. So yeah, I am, in short, yes.
And apparently it's not Ryan O'Connell's decision to end this show. I was reading lots of stuff online on Twitter, people kicking off saying, Netflix, why do you always cancel shows that are really good after the second series? I mean, Pose is another example of that.
So I think yeah, I mean, this is a wider conversation, but I do feel that Netflix is always after the new shiny thing. And so many things. Think about Sensei as an example. So many things get chopped around season 2, season 3, because unless it's going to turn into Game of Thrones, it goes and they put the budget somewhere else. And do I think it's the right strategy? No. The same thing happened with American Gods over on Amazon. Do I think it's the right strategy? No. But there are decisions being made about what viewers want, and I think they leave a lot of people high and dry. Like the OA, for instance, one of my favorite shows probably this decade, again, got the hatchet in the face. Like I just don't get it. But someone somewhere is making some decisions about this based on, I think, data and metrics, and not about the emotional connection that we're having with shows.
See, for me, that was the right decision.
I think that's the end of this episode.
That is the series with the weird dancing, isn't it?
Some of you may have seen me do that dance in a gay bar in the centre of London, because I was truly obsessed with the OA.
See, that's something I'd rather watch than the series itself, to be honest.
Again, I mean, you've already pegged me to do some singing at some point, so I'll probably just do the routine to the OA and a bit of singing at the same time.
That's quite a nice way to finish this episode of Special Unpacked, because that's something to look forward to on the next episode. Sean Vickers, I got it right that time, not there, is going to give us a rendition of Hands by Jewel.
Yeah, let's see.
That's quite appropriate, actually, isn't it? Creepy.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for watching. See you on the next one. Details down below and on the screen now.